Off top, in the late 1700s, the French introduced the guillotine as a form of capital punishment because the way they did it before was too inhumane. That's what I thought. Anyway, play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
What up, Charlie? So, you know when the last time they used the guillotine was? 1977.
I was gonna guess like 1907.
I knew you were gonna be wrong. So
I'm too humane.
The reason for the French off top is because at some point in this show we're gonna do a deep dive into talking about everyone's favorite Frenchman, not Mbappe, not Macron, Victor Wembanyama. He is going to San Antonio real soon.
The big croissant.
That's the nickname we're working on right now?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we already had the Stifle Tower, which was Gobert, right? But I mean, Victor's not a stifle. Like, we need to work on it. Maybe we can cook up a nickname for him because there's not one out there right now. But before we get to that, you came in with a hot take, or came in saying that you had a hot take, and I would like to give you the floor to deliver this hot take.
Well, Victor is great. We'll get to him. But we are in the midst of something that we love. A basketball series with legitimate stakes. And that is the Lakers-Nuggets series. When you're listening to this, game 2 will be tonight. Right. But we're still sort of bathing in the glory of game 1, where we saw Jokić go absolutely bananas against the Lakers and Anthony Davis, LeBron James.
He did everything.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Like, I mean, just the different ways that he can affect the team offensively is impressive. Like, from shooting a runner to a three-point shot to a classic back down to the way that he passes out of double teams and even passes in single coverage. It's just amazing. Anyway, get to your hot ass take.
I'm gonna get there.
You're building up.
I'm building to it.
Okay, got you.
You know, don't rush me. We're edging towards it.
Nice. Nice and slow. I'm going to see Usher. I told you this summer. Nice and slow. Yeah, we're taking my wife out there
in
for
Vegas,
her birthday.
right?
Yeah. Nice and slow.
Anyway. Gotta let it burn.
7 o'clock on the dot.
So, a couple big guys in this series. Obviously, Davis and Jokić. And this is really special because it's not often that you get legitimate stakes with a player like Jokić, who has 2 MVPs, maybe should have had a third, depending on how we think that narrative affected his play down the stretch of the season. Anthony Davis, who is the best defensive player in the NBA, playing at the peak of his power, someone who made NBA All-75. And it's rare. Like, this is Ewing versus Olajuwon. This is Duncan versus Shaq. The best offensive versus the best defensive player in the league going head to head. And the stakes for this, for Jokić, are, I think, more significant than we realize. I think the national media last night saw for the first time what we have been talking about for a while, that this guy is fucking unstoppable and like an all-timer, like truly in that Dirk Durant level, like, oh, you need anything? I'll give it to you.
Right.
I'm that guy. And so I started looking at the all-time lists where Jokić could fall. And obviously this could go sideways with how the series goes. But the stakes for Jokić are, he has a chance to be one of the 5 best centers to ever play in the NBA. And I've broken down that list between the way that we look at these centers. The top 2 are untouchable. It's Kareem, who is essentially the perfect basketball player, had the scoring record before LeBron, 6 championships, 6 MVPs. He's untouchable. Bill Russell, 11 championships, 13 years. They're on their own pedestal. The next, you have the most dominance ever. That is Shaq and Wilt. Mm-hmm. Shaq, I don't want to get underrated historically. You know, go watch the tape.
Yeah.
The best hands, best feet, biggest guy, kill everyone.
He was an incredible athlete.
Wilt has the stats, genuine loser. We'll get back to him in a second.
Not a complete loser. He won a championship.
Yeah, he won 2 championships. He was the best player on one team. He averaged 50 points per game in a season, 30 points for his career. Wilt's stats are there.
What a nerd.
And then it's at 5 and 6, the most skilled centers to ever touch a basketball. And that's Hakeem Olajuwon and Nikola Jokić. And you're thinking to yourself, how different could these guys be? One of them's maybe the best defensive player since Bill Russell. The other one is Jokić, who is our doughy phenomenon who gives people like me hope.
Okay, before you get to it, what is the take? The take is that he could break into the top 5.
Yeah, he could be a top 5 center of all time. That makes him like a top 20 guy. Like, look at this.
I don't want to be a hyperbolic take maker, but I feel like this take can be spicier.
Okay,
like, he can move. I mean, we can go through player by player and discuss if he can go above these players, because I think with where his career is now and how he's playing now, his style of play, the way this team is constructed, and the runway going forward, like, I think he could climb up. He may not just be 5. If he can continue to do this for an extended period of time, which he's not explosive, so there's no reason why he can't keep doing this and they can keep winning. Like, there's an argument that he could. How high do you think he could go? Because I don't want to be the one to take your take.
Well, if he gets above Hakeem, he's a top 15 player ever. Okay, if he wins this title, he's already had a better career than Kevin Durant. Boom, there he has more MVPs. He's been a better player at his peak.
You might be right, but I hate it.
Anytime you put Jokić on the floor, you have essentially the best offense of all time.
You know, KD is one of my faves.
That's why I did it that way.
You're such an asshole. I got a hot take for you. We'll get back to your hot take, but we started out on an Usher tangent.
Yep.
This is my Usher take. I got plans to put my hands in places that I've never seen. Girl, you know what I mean. No one knows what you mean.
I don't.
It's a terrible line. What are these places that you've never seen? Unacceptable. That's all.
That's a good take.
It's a great line. I mean, it's a great song. And there are plenty of songs like this where they're great songs, and then there's like individual lyrics or lines where I'm like, y'all couldn't let this thing cook for like 30 more minutes? Just sit in there and bake it up for 30 more minutes. Let it get all the way done. Because I think that line is, and it's the way that line is placed. It's placed in a spot where it's supposed to be like, it's like elevated. They surround it with silence and they build up to it. So this is a line that everyone is supposed to say together. And then we all say this foolishness. Like, what are you, a surgeon, Usher? Like, are you going to cut somebody open? Like, what places have you never seen? You're like 20 something when you make this song. I suspect that you've seen all the places where your hands can go. Anyway, back to Joker.
We have no idea where Jokic's hands can go. He has the best hands of any center of all time.
He has put his hands places that I've never seen.
I was shocked where he put his hands last night. Shocked and appalled and a little bit aroused by where he put his hands.
Let's go down the list. So we're going to put him, I like your top 5. So Hakeem. He's going to have to win a championship. Hakeem has 2 championships, 2 in years when Jordan stopped playing, which I guess devalues the championships a little bit, but I believe that they probably would have won those championships either way, because, like, I know we talked about this earlier, in that the center was a position that gave the Bulls hell because they weren't really playing like Winnington, Cartwright. Like, Cartwright's a great player. Before he got to Chicago, then he was we're
talking Luke Longley, Horace Grant.
Well, I guess during the time when Hakeem was winning it. So that would have been different. And that team, that Rockets team was really good, and they would have gave them hell. But anyway, I think 2 championships. For Jokić, I guess we need to talk about how much we are going to value the rings culture. So let's fast forward. Jokić wins the championship this year and is finals MVP. Is that enough to put him above Hakeem?
Honestly, probably not. But having the skulls of Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and whoever wins the East is enough that it's a better playoff run than someone like Hakeem, someone like Kevin Durant has ever had.
Right. These are they're I guess they're skulls that he has collected, but man, these are not. Let's be honest.
LeBron is literally on his last leg, his last single leg. But he also looked better in game 1 than he's looked the entire postseason, and was hunting mismatches.
Right. But he ain't. I mean, I don't know if you can credit this as getting the skull, but okay, fine. And the same with KD.
No. Let's think a couple years ago. If Mahomes had beaten Tom Brady in that Super Bowl, we all would have collected that skull, even though Tom Brady was on his 38th hair transplant by that point.
But Tom Brady was not, his play had diminished.
You beat LeBron. You could
argue that Tom Brady was better. Not argue, he was better at that point, his career, than he was when he was young. I guess you could say the Moss years are different, but other than that, that does count. This doesn't count. LeBron picking 2 games or 3 games a series to play hard does not count as a full LeBron skull.
We won't remember it that way.
Okay, that's fair. All right, yeah. All right, he has that. So he wins the championship. We'll put him over Hakeem. We'll put him over Hakeem.
And so it's interesting. You look at the 3-year peaks. Their stats are almost identical in raw numbers. Hakeem was 27, 12, 3.8 assists, but he had the crazy 3.8 blocks per game, 1.6 steals per game. And then Jokic is 3-year prime.
Statting me down.
Yeah, 26, 12, and 9 assists. Doesn't have the defensive stats, but you look at the VORPs, the box plus minuses, the PERs, and he doesn't even just, this is where it gets interesting.
Get out of here with your VORP.
No, but this is like, those counting stats are why we put Wilt so high.
Yeah.
And Jokic is actually going to pass Wilt in a ton of those counting stats. And that's why it's interesting. It's not just a Hakeem thing. It's like, if we're going to put Wilt Chamberlain on this pedestal and have him as a top 10 player of all time and a top 5 center of all time because of his statistical acumen and not his winning, like Jokic's peak, assuming it goes on for a couple more years, he's going to have a peak, not the raw scoring, not the 50 points a game, where his win shares, his box plus minus, his PR are all going to be better than Wilt Chamberlain. Something that we thought was literally impossible because of the era.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, let's strengthen the take. He could be the 4th best center of all time. He's up from number 5 to number 4.
You're such a tepid taker.
You
are such a tepid taker. Stephen A would be so disappointed in you. Okay, so I'm trying to help you build your take higher. Yeah. So he's past Hakeem and he's past Wilt.
That's right.
Who's next? Luau?
No, next would be Shaq. And I'll let you say that.
You let me say it. So now this is where you're
that's my line.
This is Shaq is your line?
Yes.
So how many championships before you, or what else does he need? Does he need more MVPs? Does he need more championships? Or is it just because he's never going to be as dominant as Shaq was?
The differentiator with Shaq is, for a 5-year period at the minimum, I felt, and I'm sure you felt the same way, that if you had Shaquille O'Neal on your basketball team, you should win the NBA championship. Jokic has not reached that mythical feeling deep in my loins where it's like,
but
you're going to win with him.
But that's BS though.
It's not BS.
No, it's BS that whatever the stuff that surrounds you matters and the circumstances matter. And like, I think that LeBron James proved that he was the one player that you put him anywhere, you're a contender, but it doesn't mean you're going to win it.
Right.
So like, I remember seeing Shaq play and being like, oh, that's different. Yeah. He's dominant. They're going to have to change the rules to like, he's that type of player. There's like a couple players that are like generationally defining and couple players who like change the trajectory of the sport. Shaq fits in that category to me. So I don't think that Jokic, and this is not fair. I think that Jokic could have a career and have numbers that are better than Shaq's, but Jokic is a evolution of the LeBron era of basketball to me, which is different than being LeBron himself or being, I guess Steph has added another little twist, because I still feel like we're kind of in a LeBron era where it's about big guys who can do everything. Yeah. And Jokic is the biggest guy who can do all the things offensively.
Jokic is just like, part of it too is he's just a one of one. There's not recreating 7-footers that have the greatest hands we've ever seen that pass like Bird, Magic, and LeBron. Yeah. Like this is the whole Steph versus LeBron debate of how they're influencing the youths. Yeah. It's like, any short guy who can't jump over a phone book can go out and take 1,000 jump shots and think they're Steph Curry. They'll never be Steph Curry, but it's going to affect the way they play. That's Jokic is like, he's an evolution of LeBron James and Larry Bird, Magic Johnson and Bill Walton and Arvydas Sabonis. Like, but there's not going to be another one. Right. Like, we saw the discount Jokic.
I guess you're misunderstanding what I'm saying is like, I think that when we talk about the greatest of all time, there's a couple things that we have to be honest about that are weighing into the way that we have the conversation that I don't think we always include, because it always devolves into like counting accomplishments, which I think one of the accomplishments or one of the impacts,
2.5 MVPs,
one of the factors that I think matters more than we are willing to acknowledge, and we try to find ways to make this argument, is like the cultural impact and the like the way that the game has to bend to the way that you play. And I think that Jokic does not have that, in the same way that I think that like I said, Jokic is an evolution on the LeBron tree, which is different than being LeBron on a LeBron tree. Whereas Shaq was different. And we didn't have anything that was before Shaq. I guess you could argue an explosive big man, but it wasn't at that size. Like Ralph Sampson is like an athletic big man.
Oh yeah, I mean Shaq's a one of one.
But yeah, like I thought I misread your facial expression. I thought that you were like maybe there was something similar before.
I mean, I guess Wilt in theory, but no, Shaq's one of one.
Yeah. So and that's what I think, and that's what I'm thinking about. And like Bill Russell winning 11 championships and innovating the jump when you play defense was like his major innovation, which sounds stupid today, but it's like, hey, why don't you jump and block these shots?
I just think that like we are just at the precipice of the Jokić thing. Like this is the first time where he's been on a title contender. This is the first time where he's really getting to play with a team that we're going to see his full potential. He's someone who I think is going to make people feel a lot of things watching him play basketball over the next couple of years. And that's sort of how I think I view it slightly differently, where it's like part of what made Jordan so special and part of what made Curry so special and part of the drawback for people appreciating LeBron's greatness, the idiots who can't appreciate it, is that when you have the best player playing the most aesthetically pleasing style, it really makes people want to watch and invest in the game in a certain way. And Jokić plays in Denver. They're playing all these 10-30 games. People aren't watching them. And people didn't take him seriously as someone who could guard a pick and roll or play in the postseason. Well, now he's having one of the best postseasons of all time. And you watch them play, and it's completely different than any other team in the league because he's doing Iverson cuts. The ball's pinging around. His interior passing, the way I describe Jokic's interior passing with like these 4 or 5 pick and rolls, it looks like a high school game when one high school has 2 like 6'8" guys who are going to play Division I basketball, and they can make these passes just because they know there's no chance of them. Like he sees things that no one else is even seeing.
Right. There's no argument against Jokic's greatness. I do think that there is, maybe it's East Coast bias, but it's probably more perimeter player bias.
But he's a perimeter player. That's the crazy part of it.
He plays on the perimeter, but I guess it's more just about the way things look. And while you find the Jokić passing aesthetically pleasing, he don't have highlights. Like Jokić don't have highlights. And I wonder, because you're right, his playoff run this year has been incredible. Yeah. But we aren't treating it the way that it deserves to be treated. I guess we're starting to. We'll see how this goes. But you remember how we were talking about Devin Booker? Like Devin Booker was having incredible playoffs. It's because he was doing the stuff that we'd like to see. Yeah. Or that you can put up a highlight that'll make the average fan stop and look. No one is stopping to look at Jokic's no jump shot.
See, I think that, and that's where I think the importance of the LeBron and Davis thing are looming over the series, is that like you have Jokić with that 40-footer at the buzzer that's just making Anthony Davis go like, what the fuck? Yeah, like he's literally he was literally the Veep gif where he's like smiling because he didn't know what to do. And the offense is, I mean, it's not Warriors-esque, it's not run by Curry, but it's Warriors-esque in the sense that everyone touching the ball and thinking they can succeed runs completely counter to the style of play that we've come accustomed to in the LeBron James era of like, yes, they're the 2 best half-court players in the NBA making every decision. They do it in vastly different ways.
Who was before Kareem? Who was the like offensive post presence?
Well,
but I guess I'm not talking about just, that's the wrong word. Who was there someone as skilled as Kareem? Because I think of Kareem and Hakeem as like coordinated offensive players at a different level and also like developing post moves. Yeah. Am I wrong to think of it that way? Because I don't think,
I mean, if you want to, there's literally the mic and drill, but that's not like, that's like, so it's just different. I mean, basketball's changed so much. Like to me, it's hard to do pre-Kareem stuff.
I know basketball has changed. And I think part of the argument that I stumbled into was about these like players who have a style that changed the course of the game. And I guess as I was going back through these players, I understand what LeBron's meant to the game. Yeah. And I understand what Steph's meant to the game. I understand that like Bird and Magic, what they've meant to the game, like the way that the game changed around their style of play. And I was trying to assign something to Kareem. And I'm just thinking of people whose footwork and offensive post moves became a development. It doesn't feel like, and then maybe it's just I don't have the knowledge, but it doesn't feel like a thing pre Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
To me, it feels like the Kareem Russell Wilt extension through till Jordan felt just like if you have the most dominant big guy, you win. And that was the stylistic thing. And it's like, you know, it's a constant hunt for like the rarest thing in sports, someone above 7 feet tall who can chew gum and walk at the same time. And that's so rare. And then you you see Jokić, he's a 7-foot guard.
Yeah.
He's a 7-foot, like 280-pound guard. And he plays incredibly hard too. It's like the stark contrast between him and Davis and like the aggro Davis he brought out, because it's like how hard Jokić plays and how hard he runs the floor. That's one of the things that's fascinating about this series and the stakes of it all. Because the counterpoint of this is if it goes sideways and Davis wins this series and he's the best player on a team with LeBron going against Jokić, like we're going to walk back all of the Disney street clothes jokes, all of the fact that people cringed at him making NBA 75, and it's gonna be like, no, this is dumb. Like,
this is one of the best things about the NBA playoffs, and one of the worst things about the NBA playoffs is it really determines the way that a player is remembered and talked about.
Yes, normally I agree, but this one there's actual stakes, because this is like, I doubt we will get a series again in their careers where these guys will be this good playing against each other on teams that actually complement them. Like, this is the rare thing where if something goes wrong, it's actually fair to be like, this series was won or lost by the best players, because the role guys are good enough and pretty equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. Well, they better hurry up and win these championships while they can, because Big Vic, we haven't come up with a nickname yet. We'll think of one.
Yeah.
Because Big Vic is on his way. So you said looking for 7-footers that can walk and chew gum at the same time was the hardest thing to find, and everyone was looking for one. Well, Vic can chew gum, he can walk, he can shoot a three, he can handle the ball like a point guard, he passes like a point guard, he watches the person that he emulates is Kevin Durant. That's the film that he watches because he wants to be like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant is 7 foot, I guess, like right at 7 foot.
Yeah.
Vic is 7'4" and
7'9" wingspan.
Yeah, 7'9" wingspan. He's I imagine everyone's seen some clips of him, but if you haven't and you haven't been paying much attention, you should know that he is being called the best prospect in the history of the NBA and quite possibly the best prospect in the history of team sports, which is a little bit absurd, but you understand why someone is looking in a world where hyperbole is just like is kind of the oxygen that we breathe.
Yeah.
You want to find a way to say no.
Yeah.
No, this one is different, and that's what we're trying to do.
I feel like Victor Wembanyama is that scene in The Social Network where Justin Timberlake's character says, "You know, it's cooler than $1 million, $1 billion," and that's you know, it's cooler than Kevin Durant. Stretch him 4 inches, and have him be able to put back dunks on threes he missed.
That's the craziest highlight we've seen. So he's been a pro basketball player since he was 14.
Yeah. His
mom was a basketball player, and his dad is a 6'8" track athlete. I think he did triple jump.
Mm-hmm.
And like you put those people together, there's a chance that you get a Victor Wembanyama. So I think some of the interesting things that I found in like reading about him and getting to know him was he is not he's thin, but he's not soft. Yeah, and the French league, from what I understand, the things that I've read, the French league is a very physical league. It's a more physical league than the NBA, and he holds his own in that league. So the big knock against him is he's slim. He's only 19. He'll fill out. He'll be less slim. If you remember what Giannis looked like when he was drafted, it was not what he looks like now. And that doesn't mean that's what Vic will turn into, but I don't have any concerns. He doesn't have an injury history.
Yeah, broken fingers here and there.
Yeah, but he doesn't have like a lower body injury history, which is what we care about. I don't have any major concerns. Not that I'm some great scout, but there aren't any red flags. So congratulations, Spurs. You cheated your way to another dynastic run.
Seeing the Victor Wembanyama highlights the first time when he came and played G League Ignite, like, because we'd seen clips of him playing against like teenagers. It was stunning, truly stunning to see someone who's that fluid of an athlete, because you see 7'4" on the roster sheet and you think he is going to move like someone who's above 7 feet tall. And it was much closer to Durant than anything else. Yeah. And of course, his shooting has improved a lot and should continue to improve, but it might not. He might not come into the NBA as a 40% 3-point shooter, but it's a unique thing where his only chance of busting is if he gets hurt. And it's not obscene to think that he could be an all NBA player as a rookie, as a second year player. And those expectations, when people say, oh, he's a bigger prospect than LeBron, it's not that he's more hyped than LeBron and more in the American zeitgeist than LeBron. It's that coming to LeBron's draft, you had Darius Miles being like, we're pretty good at that position. We'll see if he can get on the floor. You had Michael Jordan saying that he was Petty King Michael Jordan being like, at best, he'll be a league average NBA player next year. And it turned out he was the only one who could come in after senior high school and, be what should have been an all NBA player. But that's the expectations for Wembanyama.
Yeah. And there's no one like criticizing. There's no one saying, tamp this down a little bit. Every time you hear someone new, and players included, every time you hear someone new speak about Victor, they talk about how great he is. No one has any questions about it.
He also passes the old guy test where like you want to see, Wilbon or Kornheiser or our dads be like, Ralph Sampson did this back in my day when he was a 7'3" guard. It's like they watch that and they're like, no. Ralph Sampson did not do this. Young Patrick Ewing did not do this. This is freakish.
When I was reading about him, I just couldn't help but think about Ivan Drago from Rocky IV.
Yeah.
It's like the team that they have around him and the focus that he has. It just reminds me like, and it seems like at least one of the stories that I read was that when he was 9 years old, you could see that he had the dog in him. That he was intense and frustrated when things went wrong in youth basketball games, which is like, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure things went wrong when he was averaging 40 and 10 against
but
9-year-olds.
He wasn't. He was playing against like 14-year-olds. So like he wasn't the best player and he was treating it like, and I'm buying into all the hype. I believe it.
Oh yeah.
He's physical. He got the dog. He has everything that you would want. He's big enough. He's athletic enough. He talks a little bit of trash too. I remember when people suggested, this was around the G League Ignite game, people suggested that maybe he shouldn't go number one, and he laughed at them.
Yeah, I mean, even if he was dogless, he could dogless his way to 23-7 next year.
Plenty of dogless people in the Hall of Fame, but he wants to be the best of all time. I think the draft lottery, I've been thinking about this, and you sent me an article that was great in the Washington Post about how close the Washington Wizards came to getting Victor. So for
our
those
beloved Wizards,
for those who we're in DC and we would love for that walking stimulus package, Victor Wembanyama, to come here. The article suggested that a player of his caliber would mean more than $1 billion of value to the franchise, which makes perfect sense. It seems a little low, honestly.
Yeah.
But the article walked through the process and how the odds change with every lottery ball that's pulled out. So they do numbers. Each team gets a stack of numbers based on that's commensurate with their percent chances of winning. And the Wizards, by the time they got to the last draw, the Wizards' chances went from 6% to 54%.
Yep.
And they still didn't get them. They ended up in the 8th spot. They had the highest chance of everyone. They had the most balls left.
Yep.
They had a 54% chance. I'm not sure what the next highest chances were, but it was nowhere near half.
Yeah.
And the Wizards ended up with the 8th pick in a draft that had like some good players, like the top 3 guys, Scoot, Victor, Brandon Miller, the Thompson twins. These are all people or players that they think will have immediate impacts, and the Wizards landed at 8. I mean, most people watching this don't care about the Wizards, but I thought the story was pretty funny, pretty sad, and it illuminates how valuable a player like that is.
The Washington professional basketball franchise has not won 50 games in either of our lifetime.
Yeah.
And that was the stakes of this, because purgatory is back.
Yeah.
For good now. Like, let's just enjoy our $50 million we pay to Bradley Beal and go win 34 games every year at best.
Do you think Victor can move shoes? That's always been like the thing that a big man can't do.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Does Durant sell shoes like that?
Yeah, people love KD's shoes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's some.
KD just got a lifetime contract from Nike. He's the second guy after LeBron to get it.
I saw. I think it was Brian Windhorst talking about how intense Victor is and how serious he is about all this stuff and how great he wants to be, which like is encouraging, but the idea that he's going to be in San Antonio, I know everyone's happy about. The fix was in.
You think so?
I mean, not actually, but it kind of feels. So everyone talks about how the Spurs have this connection with France because of Tony Parker and the success that they've had with, I guess, Boris Diaw also, and how that's like the same way the Rockets are like the most popular team in China because of Yao Ming. The Spurs are that in France. The Spurs are also an organization that have shown the ability to nurture a star. The fix may be in, and I wouldn't be mad. The fix should be in. It's the dumbest thing ever. You know, I hate the draft for a number of reasons. But the idea in basketball, we've talked about this before. Basketball is a star-driven league in a way that other leagues are not. The idea that you have a guy that could possibly drive revenue and drive league interest in the regular season next year and going forward, the idea that you would entrust that asset that is hugely valuable to the entire league to any old organization, to me, just seems stupid.
I want to be very clear right now. Tanking is immoral, but fixing a draft lottery is not immoral. It's the right thing to do.
No, again, I never said that it's the right thing to do or said that it's not immoral. I said that I understand why somebody would tank. And if I was in that position, maybe I would do the same thing. But I'm not in that position. So I'm going to call you out and let you know that what you're doing is BS. I like to think that I wouldn't do it because I have integrity.
You'd be tanking your ass off for Vic.
No chance. No chance. Maybe a little bit.
You'd be like, all right, Russ, let's sign you up, Westbrook. Let's get you on a big 1-year deal. Vic is coming next year. Ben Simmons, come on board.
I think that the only point I'm trying to make is that whether it's ethical or not, I understand the motivation. I think having a draft is unethical. We should just have a segment of all the things that I think are unethical because there are a lot. I think the draft is terrible. But aside from that,
Foxworth's corner to be a pun.
Aside from that, it's stupid. It's just stupid to entrust that level of value just to any old team. And I thought of that when I was reading about the Wizards and how they haven't had success in a long time. And there's lots of people who complain about the way that they run the team. It's like, damn, it would have been great for us, but it'd been real scary for the league.
Yeah. I mean, I just genuinely wonder if Vic is too big to fail. Like that's the LeBron part of it where it's like, say Memphis had won that draft lottery back then when, that pick got flipped to Detroit for Darko. If they had won the lottery, they would have gotten the key for the pick, and they were an abomination of a franchise. But if you had put LeBron there in year 2, they would have won 50 games. And that's the thing with Vic is like he could be one of these guys like Jokić is now, where you put him on a team with decent people, and the team just wins 50 to 55 games. And that's the interesting thing. Like, I think the Spurs could do that next year.
Right.
Succeed next year with him.
But that's only good for a few years.
But
you need an organization that is capable. So like if LeBron never got out of Cleveland, I'm not sure that he would have had the career that he had and he would have created the value for the league that he's created. So you need a stable organization, not only for the health and safety of the player to protect them, but also to help continue to elevate them. Like we need the storylines. It's only fun for so long. So that's my point is like the Spurs is someone we all trust to properly build around him because they've done it a number of times. He could go somewhere where there's a general manager who stinks and he could end up being like stuck there for 15-year careers.
7 years.
I mean, he might stay longer because the money's right. Maybe he doesn't want to force the trade the way that other players do. So that's my point is you want to nurture this. This is a valuable gem that that someone else could squander.
Look, we don't want him playing with Boobie Gibson and Damon Jones as his two co-stars careening towards the NBA Finals. But that being said, it's also like the NBA is in a completely different spot now. Like there's such a broad swath of talent, and the role players and low end stars have gotten so good that we're at a different point of team building where you look at these teams. Look at the teams that ended up in the top 4. Like the Spurs got the pick, and we're instantly like, okay, he's going to play with Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan. That's nice for a young team. Like they could be a 6 seed next year in the West. And if he had gone to the second team, it's like, wow, would have been fun to see LaMelo Ball and Victor play together. Scary Terry's on that team. Hayward, those are professional basketball players. Then you go to
professional basketball players.
But that is different than what LeBron went to. That's different than what like a non-nurtured first overall pick.
The point is the whole league is like that now. That's
exactly.
your point. So then that's not much of an advantage.
But there's no situation.
The point I'm making is that at some point you need him and you need him to go to that second level. Like we need Jokić to go to the finals eventually, or it doesn't have any value to like grow the interest in him. So at some point, I think you're right. First 3-4 years, him balling, just getting to the playoffs, maybe that's enough. But at some point, he's going to have to get to a championship game, and then he's going to have to start winning championship games, or we are going to trash him, and he's not going to be as popular, not be as interested. So all I'm saying is that's hard to do, and you need an organization that's capable of doing that. And my only point is having a star like that is value for everyone. And so letting any old team have him come in, I'm just saying that's risky. That's all.
Yeah. No, I understand. And look, it is as sad as it is absolutely for the best that he is not in Washington. But I think that if he's really Kareem or LeBron or Wilt Chamberlain, really the only like NBA prospects you can compare him to at that level, like, I mean, like Kareem won a title like almost immediately with a really washed up Oscar Robertson. When you're that great, LeBron took a completely
to the finals.
Destroyed Cavaliers roster and lost to the Spurs. But like guys who are that level, who are that precious in basketball, it's like you win because of them, not because of what you put around them in a lot of ways. And like to get over the hump, you need, proper general manager stuff, but guys who are this good just create winning.
You're wrong, but okay. I mean, they create winning. You're right about that, but like the point I'm making is the level that they need to get to. So yeah, like Jokić, when everyone's injured, he gets to the playoffs and people are like, oh yeah, he's good. And then they come in this year saying that he's not good enough to win a third MVP, even though he probably is good enough to win a third MVP. So all I'm saying is something that's very obvious that for whatever reason you refuse to accept is that at some point the organization needs to put good enough talent around him that he can get to and win the finals.
I know. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and that not every organization can do that. No matter how many good players are out there, not every organization is capable.
Yeah,
that's all.
Well, that's the only way you win in the NBA though is if you get access to one of those players. It's like, do you get LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, or is Kevin Durant going to join your team in the middle of the greatest cap spike in NBA history? That's how you win in the last 20 years.
That's the hard part.
Step one is Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, they've got. So I agree with you. No matter where he ended up, that team would have had the hard part taken care of. It doesn't mean they get everything else taken care of.
I think the thing where I got lost with what you're saying is like, I think the player development stuff is like, yeah, like Oklahoma City now has San Antonio's old shooting coach, Chip England, who like historically fixed people's jump shots, whether it was Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard. But to me, it's much more murkier about teams developing players. Like Vic is so developed. Like I think he'll get to that greatness level. He even on the Wizards, he would have gotten to that greatness level where like first team All NBA, lock, 50 wins.
I think so. I mean, his game is already really developed. He already, and the Drago point that I made is just because he already has a team around him.
Yeah.
He already has people that are incredibly, like the decision that he made, the team that he played for this year was all about prepping for the NBA, about having a team that was ready to build completely around him. And he's just ready. And
that's the LeBron of it all, where it's actually interesting because I think the expectations for Victor Wembanyama, I don't know if they're too high because of how good he's going to be, but for me, like falling short of being one of the best players ever at his position would actually be disappointing, which I think is crazy high, but he's prepared for that. And I think that those expectations affect the joy we have watching him. Like Steph Curry, we had so much joy because we're like,
you're shocked.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
That's cool.
LeBron, it's like his career since 2007 and probably before, but I think that's a fair litmus point, point of demarcation is, are you Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
And I think we might get to that point sooner rather than later with Vic. And I don't know if that's good or bad, if they'll stifle his creativity as a player, if they'll change his development, but
I mean,
that's where we're headed.
The way that you experience LeBron is more like suspense.
He's a monolith.
Yeah, no, I'm just mean as watching the game, with all that hanging over him, it feels like suspense and release, which is different than watching Steph, which is like fun, like comedy throughout. And so Vic, I think we're going to end up in that same thing. At first, I think it's going to be like, oh, this is ridiculous, this is cool. But at some point, it's going to be like, damn, you have to win these, unless he wins them early. You have to win these championships or we're going to feel terrible. I was thinking about who else? Are there other big men or other players drafted number 1 overall that had this level of anticipation? I would say obviously not, because the media wasn't the same in any of those any of those eras. But I guess I was thinking like Yao was a similar player in that he had more skill than, like, he was a good shooter. He was big and he was from somewhere else, which was a little bit different. I guess Patrick Ewing came in with a lot of hype out of college.
Ewing's a big one compared to Bill Russell. People thought he went to New York and people were like championships.
Yeah, and they were competitive. And I guess, obviously Kareem winning, he won all 4 years, right? In college, he won all 4 championships and was the best player in college for
3. He wasn't allowed to play varsity as a freshman, but he played on the JV team. And the JV team beat the varsity team that won the national championship because they had Kareem.
So we're going to go ahead and call that 4.
Yeah, you can get the transitive 4.
I don't know. Is there anybody, I guess we were talking before the show, and you have to go outside of basketball, I think.
Yeah.
And you told me some stuff about Wayne Gretzky that I thought was interesting and shocking, about how it's your assessment that he was the best hockey player in the world when he was 15?
15, I think is fair. Like, by the time, if you're listening to this and you haven't been on Wayne Gretzky's Wikipedia page, you should, because his stats as a child, like when he was 10 years old, he scored like 380 goals in the season against 14-year-olds. And that just continued until he got to the NHL. And as a rookie, he had 182 points. Not a hockey guy, but this stuff, like his numbers are so out of whack that they put Wilt Chamberlain's to shame.
He was playing semi-pro hockey at 14, 15 years old. Like Victor plays pro, and he was the best player in his semi-pro hockey.
And the numbers don't make sense. Like they're so out of whack against guys who are, 20-year-old guys trying to make the NHL. Like he's up there. You have someone like Rafael Nadal who beat Pat Cash, the former world number 4, in an exhibition match when he was 14. When he was 15, he was playing pro tennis. When he was 19, he was, the best player in the world. And that's important because he was beating Roger Federer, who was the best player of all time at that point. Like these prodigies are rare at this level, at this type of thing. And that's where we're at with Vic.
How old was Serena when she won her first Grand Slam?
I think she was 18, but don't quote me on that. 18 or 19?
We could Google it.
Yeah. I mean, Monica Seles won, I think, 9 Grand Slams before she was a teenager, but that her career got totally changed by being stabbed.
That was pretty awful.
Yeah.
I remember that. That's one of few,
and that's like something that, I mean, she should be on that list. Absolutely. She's the best women's teenage tennis player ever.
This is a sad note to end the podcast. Scoot Henderson's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller is also awesome. Who do you think goes higher?
Would you trade LaMelo to build around Scoot? Would you build them together? Would you trade the pick?
I would build them together. I think I'd at least give it a shot. Having multiple ball handlers, shot creators, and Scoot's kind of small. He's 6'2". I think like the comps
you call him small.
Yeah, he's swole. He's like a little LeBron, but he's 6'2", which is. And
he's built like Adrian Peterson.
I think the comps that I saw for him, like we came up with one where like Jason Williams, our colleague whose career was cut short, was similar type of player. But I've seen like Derrick Rose and with Westbrook level athleticism, that type of stuff. So he's a guy that we'd be flipping out over in any other draft if it wasn't for the fact that Victor's around. So I don't think you pass on him no matter. I think it's stupid in any sport, honestly, to pass on potential greatness because you got somebody at that position.
Right.
Or you figure out a way to let them work together, or you have to send somebody packing, but you don't like say, oh, we're going to go. Unless you sincerely believe that Brandon Miller is a better player. He's 6'9". He's not bad on defense, but he's an more offensive-minded player who is likely, he may not have Hall of Fame potential, but he's got all-star potential.
Comp to Paul George already, that type of stuff.
Which is a great player. And I mean, I guess that does give you Hall of Fame potential if you are Paul George.
The Scoot thing, if he had played college basketball, if he had been in March Madness, like where guards dominate, he would be such a big deal.
Yeah.
Like the same way that John Wall and Derrick Rose were. Mm-hmm. Those explosive guards, even Morant taking Murray State to the second round, like those guys are the most fun players in the tournament. And he's someone we're going to see more and more guys go the G League route, but he's someone who I think perception-wise, would have benefited immensely from playing American college basketball.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I'm excited for the draft. I'm looking forward to all this. Can't wait for Washington to get somebody in the town that is not going to make an impact at all. Well, anyway, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate you. You unbuttoned another button today. You're giving them some more chest hair. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't judge. Come on to YouTube. Get a look at Charlie's chest hair. It's not taco beating. It's more like spaghetti.
Yeah.
You don't got no curls. You call it curls up top. All right. Appreciate you, Charlie, for coming. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Christina, for doing your work. Adi Khan. And, of course, the good people at Podville who let us use this beautiful studio. Bye.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.